Here's a look at the lineup today here on the Now on this Friday. Schools are getting creative to try and stop kids from using e-cigarettes. Requests for vaping detectors now off the charts, but that's not the only place you may start seeing these items. Also, there's a push to allow medical marijuana in schools. We have a mother's story on why she says this should be allowed. And look, when you think of Friday the 13th, well, there's probably a lot of superstitions you think about when it comes to today, but believe it or not, today is actually a lucky day if you're in the market for a tattoo. We'll be getting into that.
Thank you, Chris. I'm Mark Mullins, and this is the Now Indy on RTV6. Amanda Starantino has the evening off. An Indiana couple now faces charges. They are accused of abandoning their adopted daughter. Investigators say Christine Elizabeth Barnett and Michael Barnett moved to Canada in 2013 and rented an apartment in Lafayette for their then 11-year-old girl. But they allegedly left her to fend for herself since they lived in another country. Prosecutors also say before abandoning the girl, who has dwarfism, the couple legally changed her age from 11 to 22 and told her to tell people she was that old. The Lafayette Journal and Courier reports that Christine Barnett and Michael Barnett are now both charged with neglect, but police need your help to gather even more information about this case.
If anybody has any information about this case, we do ask that they contact our department, 765-423-9321, and where they can always remain anonymous and use the We Tip hotline.
Police say the girl's neighbors helped to take care of her. According to investigators, they are cooperating with the investigation. Indianapolis was recently ranked last out of 100 cities when it comes to the quality of the public transportation system. The Wallet Hub study was released this week and took place between 2017 and this year, so before the Red Line launched on September 1st. According to the study, less than 2% of commuters use public transit in Indianapolis. A number Indigo hopes to increase with the Red Line. Indigo says about 50,000 people live along the Red Line, and about 150,000 jobs are located along the route. Here's a look at how some other cities fared in the study. The top two cities were Seattle and Boston, which both got high marks for accessibility and convenience. Fort Wayne, Indiana was ranked ahead of the Indianapolis area in the study, partially because of its safety and reliability rating. And Columbus, Ohio, a similar-sized city to Indy, was ranked about 40 spots higher on the list. An Indigo spokesperson has responded to the study, encouraging the discussion on transit to focus on how Indy has grown instead of how it compares to other cities. She also said, quote, Marion County is a huge county. It dwarfs other municipalities, yet we are still tasked with providing reliable transit service for a relatively spread out community, making the job more difficult, and measurement of percent of people who drive versus percent of people who use transit difficult or inaccurate to compare equally with other metros. If you still have questions about Indigo's Red Line, as a driver or rider, we can help. Just go to our website, theindychannel.com, and watch our special Inside the Red Line.
Nice day for the Red Line, or heading out on the bike, or some of the trails there. Just get in an afternoon or evening run. We've got a couple of downpours, but quite a bit of blue sky, and yeah, it's been another toasty day out there. Storm Team 6 radar fairly quiet. We had this one downpour that was on the southeast side of the city. Now it's continuing to fade away as it moves toward Greenfield and the north side of New Pal. We've got a couple of more downpours here around the Connorsville area. Nothing severe for us, and really that threat is very isolated. A couple more showers here near Greensburg and south of Columbus, but we still technically have that marginal risk. Indianapolis and areas to the east. A couple of those storms could have some gusty winds. 91, so we made it into the 90s for the 22nd time so far this year, and those temperatures are still running well into the 80s. Heading out to some of those football games this evening. Kickoff temperature 82, 57, and partly cloudy for the final kick.
People in the Bahamas now bracing for another storm. It is expected to be windy and rainy there overnight. It won't be hurricane strength, but there is still so much damage from Hurricane Dorian. Many homes still don't have power or running water. Thomas Hopp is in Freeport with survival stories from Dorian.
Me, I've lived in the Bahamas all my life. I grew up on Grand Bahama. This level of damage to all of these structures we've not seen before.
Just a week ago, Hurricane Dorian, a Category 5 hurricane, flattened homes on the islands.
The water came in about to our waist inside the house.
Nassau, the capital and smallest island, wasn't hit as hard, but is now refuge to those who lost their homes and more.
I have 3 people passed in my family, my brother and my mom and my cousin. I saw my mommy body. I saw my brother body. I let them move my brother body.
By 5.
One of his workers lost 5 members of his family.
Everyone left out so quickly, so...
More than 4,800 people have been evacuated. More keep coming. Shelters are over max capacity.
Plenty people out on their own because plenty people doesn't have a place to stay. I'm at the airport trying to get back home, trying to salvage.
In Freeport, 50 miles away from Abaco, the majority of homes are without power and running water.
Yeah, they say it's contaminated. So from the water came up, all the cesspits actually came up too. So
they wait to rebuild.
If you were out there, then you would have seen people helping people, be it living or dead.
Because through tragedy, the Bahamian people are strong. In the Bahamas, I'm Thomas Hoppo reporting.
Just think of the challenges that are ahead there. Thomas, thank you. Let's get back to our lineup here on The Now with how schools are taking some new action to try and stop kids from vaping. Everything from removing bathroom stall doors to even sending kids to a special disciplinary school. Well, there are also requests for vaping detectors and ahead the benefits that those devices could have beyond vaping.
Call, click, or visit a store today.
The CDC is trying to figure out why vapors are going to the hospital with lung issues. There are now 380 confirmed and probable cases in the U.S. That number actually went down a bit with some possible cases ruled out. Some patients, they use THC or nicotine or both. Now, many patients are young adults. An Alabama school actually removed bathroom stall doors. A student found passed out from vaping in a bathroom there. A North Texas school district says it will send kids that are found using e-cigarettes to a special disciplinary school for a month. The superintendent telling Reuters they're hoping that that'll help be a deterrent. Now, schools are now investing in what are called vape detectors. They're taking a look at the Halo, which can detect chemicals associated with vaping. Company's president says they've sold them to schools in 46 states.
One of the administrators from a school district in upstate New York reported that they have children as young as 4th grade vaping. So although they were installing this in the bathrooms of middle and high schools, now this is extended down to a level of elementary school. So it's very, very concerning.
Halo could eventually be used to pick up sounds in an emergency like glass breaking or even gunshots. Vape detectors will also likely show up in more places.
We're doing a pilot right now with a hotel chain, and they have an interest in putting this into hotel rooms for vaping and smoking in those rooms. But on top of that, it can actually determine if somebody left their TV blaring because of the audio decibel levels that we hear from it.
He also says that parents want them in their homes over these concerns over vaping. All right, let's turn to the Now newsfeed. Whole Foods is cutting medical benefits for some of its workers. Right now, workers of 20 hours a week can buy into a health plan, but next year, they're going to need to work 30 hours to do that. Well, it's a record year for store closings, but don't tell that to Old Navy because the store is planning to open 800 new locations. It is splitting from its parent company, The Gap. Well, Tokyo set to host the Summer Games next year. Organizers using a tool to keep cool that you would typically believe would be at the Winter Olympics today, trying out snow machines. The games will be held next July. Well, there is a push to allow medical marijuana in schools. The difference some parents say that this would make and why some critics say it's just too soon.
RTV6 is working for you.
The nurse at your child's school may have a new type of treatment in their medicine cabinet, medical marijuana. And as Corey Rangel shows us, more schools across the country are starting to allow it.
Did you have a good day today?
Yeah. 11-year-old Zoe Carty is back at school, excited about starting 6th grade. But she's also a little nervous. She knows her epilepsy can cause a seizure at any time, including while she's in class at her school in Washington, D.C.
It just makes it hurt, and I have to go lay down. I can't walk for a minute.
Without medication, Zoe could have dozens of seizures a day. At times, they've been so violent, she's ended up in the hospital.
The part that really scared me the most is like when she would have those back-to-back seizures, and they have this thing called sudden unexplained death in epilepsy patients. That was one of my biggest fears, so she always slept in a bed with me.
Zoe's mother, Dawn, says her daughter has been put on 17 different prescription medications.
By the 8th drug, You know, my daughter was like in a zombie state of mind.
Worried about the side effects of those powerful prescription drugs, Dawn tried medical marijuana and CBD oil.
By a year, I mean, she was like 85, 90% seizure free.
More than 30 states have legalized medical marijuana, but only a handful of states allow it in schools or are considering it. Dawn pushed for it in D.C., and this year she helped convince D.C. public schools to allow nurses to administer medical marijuana to students.
That's taboo to have marijuana at school. I mean, come on. It's very taboo. But we have to open our minds. This is 2020. She's not on any pharmaceuticals. 2 years pharmaceutical free. 3 years hospital free.
While there may be success stories, critics argue there's little scientific evidence about the safety or effectiveness of treating children with medical marijuana, and CBD therapy can have its own side effects. In Washington, D.C., I'm Corey Rengel reporting.
Corey, thank you. Consumer Reports is clearing up some grocery store confusion. The group has a comprehensive food label guide. It explains and ranks the seals and claims that you see on products.
We're rating them on how meaningful they are, whether they meet consumers' expectations, how well they're verified. So just to let consumers know whether they can trust those claims and seals.
The USDA organic seal ranked excellent with Consumer Reports. It comes with federal law requirements that cover things like pesticides, what animals eat, and drugs given to animals.
Also, it has very good verification requirements, meaning that an inspector goes to the farm every year to make sure those standards are being met.
American grass-fed is also rated excellent when you see that. Consumer Reports found it covers more than what it claims. It means the cattle were allowed in pastures, not just confined in feedlots. Also, no growth hormones or antibiotics are used. Now, when it comes to eggs, Consumer Reports gave a fair rating to the United Egg Producers Standard Seal.
They can still keep their hens in very small cages, giving each hen essentially the space no larger than the size of a sheet of paper.
Claims like all natural, no antibiotics, non-GMO, all rated the lowest. Consumer Reports guide lets you specify what you're shopping for, so you might want to bookmark it for the next time you do head to the grocery store. You saw that URL there, cr.org/food labels.
Thank you, Chris. Volunteers bring new life to a West Side park in an Indianapolis neighborhood that has seen its share of troubles. About 60 IU Health employees volunteered their time today to clean up and improve Frank Young Park. The small city park is in a neighborhood near Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and West 29th Street. Volunteers mulched, weeded, painted, and cleared debris from Frank Young Park and the alleys around it. Similar work took place Thursday at JTV Hill Park near East 16th Street and Dr. Andrew J. Brown Avenue, and at Graham Martin Park on West 16th Street. Sharon Tompkins, a 40-year resident of the neighborhood, was very happy to see the work going on down the street from her house.
It means a whole lot to us, and it invites people in, and it excludes crime. Because if the people look like they care about where they live and their property, people will be hesitant to commit crimes in the neighborhood.
Well, Thompson hopes neighborhood children will be attracted to the park and its playground equipment. Tonight, Purdue University says it will move forward with a planned on-campus Chick-fil-A despite some pushback. Purdue says there is an overwhelming demand for a Chick-fil-A on campus, so they're moving forward with this project. But some students and faculty are against the fast food chain because of the CEO's stance on LGBTQ issues. The school says the Chick-fil-A franchisee is a Purdue graduate who has signed and observed a commitment of equal access and treatment in her employment and service practices.
Taking a live look north out of downtown Indianapolis from our weather camera and looking into the weekend, and that weather is in pretty good shape for your outdoor plans Saturday and Sunday. You notice on Storm Team 6 radar, you see all those orange polygons in Ohio. That's where the severe weather is taking shape right now. We have just an isolated downpour here or there. One of those moving into Greensburg right now, and also around the Liberty area, a little bit of lightning with that one, but any severe threat going to be minimal here with some gusty winds. This shower continuing to fade away as it moves away from Portland. But I think the clouds are going to be clearing out, and on this Friday the 13th, you can check out that full moon tonight, which is technically full just after midnight tonight, also called the harvest moon, and it will appear about 14% smaller. We're likely not going to see that from here on the ground, but it's at its greatest distance from Earth, so that gives it that little bit of smaller appearance. 88 degrees right now in Indy. It's 90 for you in Muncie and 87 in Bloomington. Tonight, those temperatures are going to get a little bit cooler, so the isolated shower and storm activity we have this evening associated with a cold front that will bring in some cooler temperatures into the upper 50s to start off your Saturday. And as we take a look at your forecast here, lots of sunshine once again. Our temperature 74 degrees at noon, around 80 for that afternoon high. So we're not talking about the 90s here as we start off the weekend. 81 for you in Bloomington, 80 in Noblesville, and 80 degrees in Kokomo. So really some fantastic weather for any of your outdoor plans, and maybe you're going to be heading out there and doing a little bit of mowing really the next several days. Shaping up well there too as we're going into a dry stretch of weather here. Next few days of the forecast, 81 on Saturday, but look at that. Quickly we approach 90 degrees again early next week. Chris?
Fentanyl is blamed for countless deaths in the opioid crisis. Reuters reporting the U.S. government looked at using it for executions. The Justice Department ended up deciding against that. Some encouraging news for the future of kidney transplants. A study says that kidneys infected with Hep C work just as well as other kidneys. There are now drugs that treat Hep C effectively, and now 3/4 of kidneys from those with Hep C go to people without the virus. Well, it turns out a pesticide could be harming more than just weeds. Scientists in Canada have found a certain ingredient is hurting birds, even in small doses. The ingredient is usually used to control pests that can damage crops. University of Saskatchewan researchers found that it's been hurting several types of North American birds. Birds have lost weight and delayed their migration. Now the birds have recovered, but scientists say all these effects could harm their chances of surviving and reproducing. Now in this recent study, the pesticide was found in grains and seeds that birds end up eating. But we've seen a similar problem before when birds have eaten bugs that have consumed that insecticide. We talked to an expert who looks into the survival of birds, and she says if we're trying to kill insects, we're trying to kill birds as well.
Even chickadees, they eat thousands of insects per breeding season, and they have nothing to feed, their nestlings. They have nothing to feed their babies. So if we reduce insect populations, we're also reducing bird populations.
The European Union banned the use of these pesticides last year. They found they were killing honeybees. The chief scientist for Bayer Crop Science says that this new study is not representative of the amount of the pesticide birds will experience in the wild. Well, it is getting easier for people to start off on the right financial foot. There are more alternative ways to build credit, to have loans approved, get credit cards and mortgages. Now, about half of U.S. adults have no credit or bad credit. Credit agencies and banks are looking at other qualities. They look at your bank account. They see if you pay bills on time, if you have money in savings, if you shop at a discount store. They even look at just how much you cook at home. This is according to Bankrate.
There's also some really off-the-wall instances when I've heard that people are scored better if they have an organized contact list in their phone. And if it looks really neat and orderly and you've got capital letters in the appropriate places.
Now, Rossman says there is a drawback to getting approved this way.
My advice, though, is make sure that you don't get into a loan just because somebody said you can qualify for it and then fail to make the payments. So, if you're on that borderline, I do worry that just squeaking through the door in a good economic climate could put you at risk if things do take a downturn ahead.
Now, Experian Boost and Ultra FICO are two big alternative programs that you can opt into that Rossman says can help. All right, next in our lineup, when you think of Friday the 13th, probably some superstitions come to mind. We're going to tell you why today is actually a lucky day for deals on tattoos.